Folks, let me tell you something. I hear, Amanda here, and we determined. Welcome to our podcast, Below the Bell. Welcome to each and every one of you. We determined. We are determined. Welcome to each and every one of you. For those of you who are rejoining us, we've already told you about the weather. Those of you who are now joining us, well, weather.com is telling us it's 29 degrees outside. They say it feels like 32. However, that's good news. That is great news for those of us who are outside working. As a matter of fact, it's 29 degrees outside. It says it feels like 34. It feels like 34 degrees outside. Be good with that. You're all hearing us. We throw out all the mics. We're now going full force. Right? Nothing on the rocks. Full force. Good to see each and every one of you again. We determined. Pamela Satchery, we determined. Angeli Abrams, Claudia, we determined. Right? We are determined. We are determined. Right? You said echoing now. Well, I've muted Amanda's mic. Right? So we cannot get echo. Right? It said echoing very loud. We just solved that. We just solved the problem. Good to see each and every one of you. We've muted Amanda's mic, and so you shouldn't be hearing any echo. Right? We want no echoing. Sorry about that. We want no echoing at all. Right? Good to see you, Glensis Mingoborn. We took out the echo there. Pinky Carr, good to see you. Glensis Mingoborn. We determined. We got to bring the information to you guys. Whatever the cost, we're going to persevere. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. Good, Rena Williams, because we have to be able to do these broadcasts from outside the studio. Wherever things happening, we got to show up. And we got to bring you all audio, especially with the podcast. And where we have the regular programs, we got to bring you all visuals too. Good. So we're improving what we're doing at this end. We're improving. Tessa Lane, Eastman, I see you watching there from Brooklyn. Sandra Hanover, I see you there. Good to see you guys wherever you are joining us from. Wherever you guys are joining us from, it is our privilege to be here with each and every one of you. Natasha Daly, good to see you. Good to see you. Wendy Denny, good to see you. We ain't taking no offense. We are persevering, guys, and we can have our show regardless. You think one little snafu and we give up? No, that's not how we rolling here. Come better. That is not how we're rolling. Tremendously privileged to see each and every one of you. Thanks to all of you who joined us for our morning program. FYI, tremendously privileged that you guys would have joined us. We good to go. Thanks for joining us. And for those, I know y'all don't tune in to watch me, no. I figured out last night on in the ring, because we had a little snafu there. The video was blurred, but you guys stayed throughout the program because of the information. So I realized it's not me, y'all coming. It has occurred to me, as Abanza would say, it's not me, y'all coming to see. Y'all came for the information. And we guys, we are happy to provide that. We were only happy to provide that. So again, good to see each and every one of you. I here now, Amanza here now, y'all here now, and we are moving forward. Guys, as you come on, share the live stream. Share the live stream. Amanza's here. Again, Amanza had a fantastic presentation yesterday. I really wanted to talk to her about that because, I mean, you guys got to go back and listen to that. Amanza really tore up the house, if I wanted a phrase, with her presentation. And she was pointing out how the spending in a particular sector, if we took that spending and applied it to where we are, how much better off we could be. How much better off we could be. So a very good afternoon, Amanza, and welcome.
Good afternoon again, Sharon, and thank you for having me. Like you said correctly, we will persist. No small technical snafu will prevent us from reaching the people and bringing them the information that they need. As you've said, Budget 2022 is currently being debated in the National Assembly, and we have been really, as the political opposition, exposing the budget for what it is, a budget that simply does not value the poor and working class in Guyana, what we are seeing is, like I said in the budget, show me where you spend your money, and I will show you what you value and what your values are. And the PPPC administration, they have indicated they have allocated a whopping 200 and something billion dollars, 18 billion, I believe it might be, to public works, the capital expenditure, that is building roads, bridges, etc. And we wish to make it very clear that we are not saying that roads and bridges and schools and buildings are not important. But what we pointed out to them is that based on what the IMF is saying about project management in Guyana and about wastage, they have pegged our wastage percentage, let me put it, very simply, our inefficiencies at 41%. What that basically means is that for every $1 million that we spend on capital expenditure, 410,000 of that is wasted because of inefficiencies. So when you look at the 41% of what they have allocated to capital expenditure, it gives you $89 billion. So it means that because they have put together such a large program that they have no capacity to execute, there will be wastage of 89 billion. But what we understand is that that wastage in uplifted commons is really due to corruption and the way that they dole out these contracts and the kickbacks and and all of the corruption that permeates public procurement and construction, etc., particularly under this PPPC administration. So our argument was yesterday, well, day before yesterday in the House, that look, if you are able to put, because when you look at the capital expenditure, it has increased 109% over the amount allocated last year. So they're spending 109% more on that. So what we are saying, look, even if you realistically peg your capital expenditure at 75% more over the period last year, over last year's figure, what you will be saving is a considerable amount of money. You'll be saving at least half of that $89 billion that will go wasted. And so if you adjust it properly, let's say you take 36 billion of that 89 billion that will be wasted, how will it be allocated and how it could be allocated to bring immediate relief to Guyanese?
Amansa, I'm looking at some of the comments, and these people love you, man. These listeners here love you. They say that you sung it fantastic yesterday, and the our colleagues on the other side. I want to use the word friends because that's a very serious word. We appreciate them, but I don't know. Our colleagues on the other side will come and say, the opposition have no arguments. They did not scrutinize the budget, but here are these folks who spend a lot of time, a very considerable amount of time, going back about SOPs, about 5 protracted months of the electoral process in 2020. They're not focused on their budget. They're not focused on their ministry about their promises to the people of this country and articulating in a coherent way, as you did in your presentation and other members of the opposition, what they're doing. They aren't able to do that in a coherent way. All they have is previous knowledge. They gone back. I don't know if it's because this budget is being debated in the dome where the recount happened. That's the only thing on their mind. But I hear this about recounting SOPs and declaration, who is president and all of that, as against, as I said, articulating for the Guyanese people what in this budget for them and how their lives are going to be improved. It perhaps It's obvious in of itself that there's nothing in the budget for people and their lives are not going to be improved. And that is why they can't really speak to that. So they come here and they take you back 1 year ago. They take you back, a year and 3 months ago and painting this picture, right? And they were supposed to have improved this country by now. Nothing there for Guy Suko and all that. But Amanda, when you were talking about what this money could be spent on, you said even if you go to the capital expenditure by this amount, even if with that, here is what you can do with this other money immediately. Immediately, talk to us about that. Talk to us about that.
Sharon, yes, like I said, it is simply about allocation and putting the money where it is important. And that is what the government failed to do. You would notice that throughout the course of that budget, they mentioned public servants once. One time, they spoke about public servants. And that was to reference the 5% after tax increase because they said 7, but they taxed it. So it amounted to effectively 5%. And when you look at it over a period of 2 years, it's actually an increase of 2.5% for every year. And that is all public servants got. Now, with that minor adjustment, Sharon, to deal with that, to lessen that wastage because of our inefficiencies. And let's say we take $36 billion. Remember, this government has just accessed $129 billion by drawing out all of the money from the consolidated fund. So, what they could have done with $36 billion, like we said yesterday, the 50,000 public servants that received zero under this budget could have received 10% salary increase immediately. So that would give them a monthly benefit immediately of $20,000. This meager increase in the tax threshold that the government proposes gives them an average of $2,800 per month. That is how public servants have gotten. Whereas with the most minute of adjustments, they could have gotten a 10% increase in salary. We pointed out that they could provide free tuition for 11,000 University of Guyana students, and that would be at a cost of 3.2 billion. Currently under this budget, university students are receiving nothing. And with this money, we could pay the average tuition, let's say about $290,000 per year for 11,000 University of Guyana students. The other thing we are looking at, we looked at, they have given 5 billion to the University of Guyana for its operational costs. We are saying that the Minister of Education has been paying lip service to having UG take its place as the institution that will, lead the training for Guyana's oil and gas future. We are saying give UG $2 billion more, right? Because the current benefit is only 3.5 billion, and all they have given them as an increase is 200 million over last year's amount. Can you imagine? 200 million more than what they gave them last year. We are saying that with the minor adjustment that we're proposing, UG can get an extra $2 billion to really become the national institution that it is. So you can have free tuition, and UG could have more operational budget at its disposal. We are also saying that the frontline workers who have been on the forefront of this fight against the pandemic could immediately receive a 250,000 bonus. You have given retrenched sugar workers $250,000, and that is all well and good if you have done that. But what about these men and women who have been on the forefront of the fight against COVID-19? We have shown with numbers that you could also give those men and women a $250,000 bonus. And that would only cost the government about, let's say, another $2 billion. we could raise the income tax threshold to 100,000 per month. So currently, whereas public servants are only benefiting from $282,800, they can now benefit close to $10,000 more on their take home just by raising the tax threshold. We can increase old age pension, Sherrod, like I said in my address. We can increase old age pension. Right now, they have only increased it by 3,000. We have shown with the figures where we can increase old age pension by at least $10,000, and it will only cost us $5 billion. And we can increase public assistance to $20,000 a month for 18,000 Guyanese. Right now, all the PPP is giving them is $2,000. We have shown where they can get $8,000 more with just the most minor of adjustments. We have also shown how they can improve technical training. So, Sherrod, it is simply about the fact that the PPP places no value on Guyanese. Because we have shown now this $36 billion is 6.5% of this biggest $1 billion budget effort that they have claiming that they've passed. And look at how immediately we could improve the lives of Guyanese. But the fact is that the PPP doesn't care. They don't care about Guyanese. And so this is where we are. Public servants are going to have to struggle. Inflation is going to hit us. Guyanese really have to tighten their belts for hard times because with all of this money coming into the economy, not the same. There's no increase in the supply of goods, etc. So you have same amount of goods, more money. What's going to happen? So we really have to brace ourselves for a tough time. And I suspect, Sharon, what we will see is that as it gets closer and closer to the elections, the PPPC is going to start trying to dole out money. They're now going to start to try to fulfill some of the promises that they've made. They said about free education that they would reintroduce it. But what the Guyanese people must understand is that when we needed it the most, the government did not come through for us.
Amansa, you sound there as though you have articulated a budget that says we care in your presentation. That kind of thinking, that kind of reasoning, that kind of budgeting would have afforded any administration to say we care again with the first oil budget. Mind you, one of the MPs stood up this morning, the PP MPs, and say that this is not an oil budget, right? This is something else. It's not oil budget. It's not an oil and gas budget. Interesting. But Amansi, you touched on the promises, the broken promises that have not yet been realized, the dreams that have been deferred, the free education, the opening of the sugar estates, a crime for plan, and all of that. Pitching money at the problem don't fix it. And so I'm not impressed with big budgets for road and education and all of that. And yet people are in some dire straits where those things are concerned. But you touched on education. That was a big one. I don't know if MP Sonia Paraga is going to come back at some point and say to us that that was Photoshop, that promise of free education and all of that. You got to be so careful because they tend to backpedal in the strangest ways on their promises and all of that. But we should have been making some strides towards free education by now. These have goal scholarship at some no-name universities and bottom house places that by the time students sign up, they say that the registration close off and people say apply next year or never heard about our country and all of that. That gotta stop and give people substantive stuff. And I think a good way to do that is fund UG, right? Fund UG. They talk about a world-class university. And that is what, when we engage people from university, they tell us these are academics and administrators and so on. They talk to us. That's our role as members of parliament to engage the people, talk to the people. We come back to the National Assembly and see how we can create the policies and the laws and so on. That really and the regulations that really and truly make people's lives better. They talk about not only, and this was crystal clear to me, they say it's not only about free education. That is one issue. But funding University of Ghana to the point where there's quality education, and we cannot underscore that enough. Amanda, your thoughts?
And so this is why we have said give UG $2 billion more, because it will ensure that operationally they're running a superior institution. So it's not just about free education, but the quality of education, as you have said. But Sherrod, there is something that there's a trend that I have been hearing in the National Assembly, and that is, what did you all do when you were there? And I want to say to the people of Guyana that that is the most inimical, nonsensical argument ever. And it is why, up to now, Guyanese are unable to enjoy a quality of life that we deserve. This is why we got to hop on a plane to go to Barbados and Antigua and so on to have a clean place and to enjoy the beaches and the scenery, because of the fact that we constantly excuse mediocrity. Like I pointed out to the PPP, they are in government. And the role of any government, whether it's AP and UAFC or the PPP, is to provide for the people of Guyana. So when you have a government that fails to articulate one policy as much as to how they will help the poor and the working class, not one policy. Their supporters and otherwise who want to turn a blind eye to that, they do not understand that they're being complicit in undermining the development of Guyana and in creating a class of have and have nots. And I keep making the point that when you create a class of the have and have nots, you create a class of people, one with everything to lose and one with nothing to lose. So who has the most to lose? And so the best use of our energy as Guyanese is to advocate for whichever government is in power to equitably distribute Guyana's wealth. Everybody stands to benefit. We must ask ourselves as a nation, why is it that we are so comfortable accepting mediocrity from a government? This is mediocre. You had the Minister of Agriculture with responsibility for sugar, and they claim to love the sugar workers and to be interested. He spent 1 minute of his budget speech telling us what they will do for sugar workers. 1 minute, if so much. He has no plan for the sugar industry, but they claim to love the sugar workers. But they know that they don't really care about these people and that they can go and they can tell them whatever. But I think they will have a rude awakening, because I think people are beginning to wake up. People are beginning to wake up. And I keep making the point, we as the parliamentary opposition, we and the parliamentary opposition, our job is to continue to expose the facts and bring the facts to the people. The people have a role as well in standing up for their rights. This is why Brother Bob said, get up, stand up for your rights. They are your rights. We are showing you how the PPP is undermining just the lives and livelihood of the poor and working class Guyanese. The question, therefore, cannot be, what are you all doing about it? The question has to be, what are we going to do about it? Because this is about each and every one of our lives. They are saddling our people, Sherrod, with a debt. They are borrowing. MP Finance stood up in the House this morning and she showed how much each Guyanese, in terms of the millions of dollars of debt that we are going to have to repay, because they're going to tax us. They're going to take it back from us by not giving us increases and all of these things. And the people have to pay attention to these facts. And those who support the government must develop a conscience to say this is wrong. We are all Guyanese and we are all equally entitled. This stupidness about what you do and what you didn't do and what you didn't do. Meanwhile, the elite of the PPPC are making off with our nation's money.
Because point taken, Amanda, point taken. And I'm happy you talked about the elites of the PPP because they're not touched. They're not touched by the feelings of our infirmities at all. They are not touched by the feelings of our infirmities. Listening to Jurita Finance, the shadow Minister for Finance in the National Assembly this morning during the debate, she talked about a certain member of the PPP who was traveling in a minibus public transportation for the first time at age 30 and took a whole camera crew with him for the experience, right? How he can be touched by the feelings and the infirmities of the people in this country, the poor people who crying out that just yesterday chicken price raise. How are you going to be touched by those feelings? It's just some people. The point is, yesterday or the day before, Frontera and CGX said Moile, the fine Moile. Me even want flipping here. What I mean for we? I don't want to flip in here. Moile fine. I want here they got more disposable income in my pocket. Not Photoshop disposable income. Real disposable income in my pocket. Nobody's jumping for joy when they hear I'll find. Nobody's doing any backflips. You articulated how this money could be spent. We should be seeing now some little cash transfers in my bank account when the month come out of this I'll find. Then I say, oh, I don't okay, forward for next month when the next tranche go in. But who the hell in this country cares how much oil they're finding? If roads still floating away, if bridge still breaking down, if we still having blackout and all that. You articulated well when it says only some people in this country. It's the elites or the PPP. It's not even all the PPP. Because the same fellow who stood up in the National Assembly this morning and spoke, his name is slipping me, but MP Ganesh Maipod made a point as he was talking. You are a senior member, but you don't have a driver. You're a senior member, you don't have XYZ. It's only some. That's the point I'm making. It's only even some of them. It's a clique, it's a cabal of them making all the money. And the same set who making the money, them in the private sector. We respect the private sector, but the private sector commission is a little clique of them that they're right in the National Assembly too, making the money. And Ram and McCray pointed out that them said they got an unhealthy. This Ram and McCray word that did the budget analysis of this budget here. He said they got an unhealthy relationship and influence with this administration. Amanzo, what are your thoughts?
He is absolutely right. And let me say this. The PPP is, and when we speak about the PPP, I want people to understand what we're talking about. I am speaking about the PPP Elite because they have faithful supporters who are suffering, but they believe that they are constrained to have to support the PPP. That is nonsense. You are free to support whichever party makes your life better. Because I always say that the PPP elite is the new plantocracy, and I have no apologies to make about it. They are trying to be the new massa. One of their MPs, Kwame McCoy, stood up in the National Assembly and said, "We own the people of Guyana." Go back to the tapes. That is what he said. He said that the people of Guyana are ours. We own them. This morning, Dharam Karar Siraj stood up in the National Assembly and said that Ashney Singh had to leave Guyana in order to feed his family. And I said, my God, what about that fisherman at 63 that can't leave this country and he can't feed the family? And these are the points that we keep making, that we must not allow the PPP, because of the racist tendencies, to prey on our ethnic insecurity and deprive Guyanese of a good life. That man at 63 that just lost his job on the fishing boat, he can't leave Guyana. He got to stay in Guyana and watch his family punished, watch he can't feed the children, watch he can't find a job. But like Dharam Kumar Sirat said this morning, Ashley Singh had to leave to go to Dubai to feed his family.
Amanza, that has so much import. Patricia Kesul and Evelyn Albemarle and Carla Washington. We know y'all guys locked into the broadcast, but we want other people to benefit too. So we're begging y'all, share the live stream, smash that emoji button as well. Y'all are locked in here. Locked in, and we love that. Amanza, that has so many imports. He could have choose any country in the world. You understand me? To feed his family. He choose Dubai. That's number one. And you saying to me, after you've been a minister You can't get work no other place. Your standard of living is so high. Your standard of living is so high that you got to go to Dubai to get the equal standard of living that you got as a minister under the PPP. That you would run away. You would flee this country. You would flee this country, right? You would flee a minimum wage. You would leave Guyanese people in the struggle because you got to go to Dubai and earn that level of salary and that opulence that you live in as a PPP minister, as against staying here and representing, right? But let us assume, let us accept an hypothesis that things are bad. It's only when things sweet he want the boat. That's what you tell me. But then it begs then that he gonna run out just now because things tight. He gonna run out just now again.
Well, Sharon, it is his MP that said it. And this is what we keep saying, that they come here, they make a mess because, as you rightly said, he left when they were in opposition, he was nowhere around. As we rightly always say, when things get bad, they're going to jump on a plane and leave Guyanese in the sauce. Their supporters took it and carry their supporters with them. They will go and enjoy the good life elsewhere, whilst Guyanese have to suffer with the effects of their poor decisions. $36 billion, 6.5% of the budget. And we can improve the lives of Guyanese so significantly. The other nonsense that I hear them speak about, the other nonsense that I hear them speak about is, oh, the AP and UFC took away the cash grant from students, from children. What they fail to say is that that cash grant is a one-time a year thing. And the AP and U administration replaced that with free transportation for children to get to school, free breakfast in school. They provided boats for those children in the interior that had to get boats to go to school, bicycles for those children that can ride to school. They had buses that took children free of charge to school. So when you compute over a long time, this is every day. Some parents who got 2 and 3 children going to school every day by bus ended up saving every month at least $30,000 in transportation to get to school. A saving of $30,000 was given by them same ranger buses that they like to bad talk. But this is what they don't tell people. So you are looking at a monthly savings of $30,000 for a mother with 3 children that got to catch bus to go to school. You multiply that by 12 months. Well, they don't go to school all 12 months. But for those months, let's say a minimum of 9 months, transportation to and fro. You multiply that by 9 and you tell me how that stacks up against a meager $20,000, one school year for one child. And this is what we are talking about. Guyanese must stop falling for their propaganda. We must sit down, think this thing through. If we are going to become an advanced society, it means that we as Guyanese people as well have to elevate our reasoning. We have to elevate our thinking because we can no longer be fooled by these people and their propaganda. They simply do not care. Dharam Kumar Siraj stood in the house and doubted that plantain was ever $300 a pound when you and I know that we went into the shop and plantain was between 250 to $300 a pound. But they don't know. They got drivers and people and things that's going shop for them. They just turn up and food cook. So they don't know. They cannot relate to the pains of ordinary Guyanese.
Amanzo, you've articulated it so well. Apparently, Ashton was his about to market now because the last budget presentation, he said he was talking with a woman by Skeldon Market or something like that. A certain none of them would go to market now. They would shame. So I expect them to be clueless. Because when the vendors start complaining about them, they're going to be embarrassed, Amanzo. They're going to be embarrassed. And so To avoid all of that, they can stay away. So they can think bread is still the price it used to be, and all of that. And you remember too, a large part of their big package as ministers and advisors and so on is subsidized. They ain't paying light bill, they ain't buying grocery and all of that. So they're definitely out of touch. But you know what is startling to me? I expected the PP to fail. I didn't understand they were going to fail so badly and in such a spectacular fashion and in such a short time as well. So, what does it cost of living? You know, the guy sent some information to us just yesterday. The chicken price gone up. A chicken is now $2,200. You know, I could have gone to one of those places. I ain't want car places because some of them got to come and advertise with us so we can give them the kudos. And you can advertise with us in several ways. You always got to run an ad in between the program. There's so many ways, so many soft ways we can advertise your businesses and so on. But there's one place you could go and you can get your rotisserie chicken, right? You can get a chicken done cooked. That's the point I want to make. Done cooked for about 2,200. A raw chicken, no, you still got to buy seasoning. You still got to buy the gas. You still got to buy the oil. You still got to buy so many ingredients to bring it to rotisserie stage. You can buy a whole chicken, right? Now a raw chicken is 2,200. Man, so where we going in this country? Where we going?
We going nowhere and fast. We're going no place and fast. And you know what I have observed with the government and the PPP? When they do not have an answer for you, when you confront them with the facts, they resort to personal attacks, they resort to name calling, as if them calling us names and resorting to personal attacks will improve the lives and livelihood of Guyanese. It will not. And anybody that has to resort to a personal attack because they do not have an answer should tell you that this government is clueless. They are clueless. The speeches that we heard here this morning from the government, the idea of a budget debate is for a government to stand and say, this is what we will do. Charles Ramsden talked a bunch of bull for 30 minutes and spent 1 minute talking about his ministry and what he will do for sports. One, their thing is about SOPs and elections. And meanwhile, they throw this type of rhetoric to their supporters. And some of them gladly latch on to debate, whilst these bandits, and I called them yesterday a mafia masquerading as a government because that is what they are, whilst they make off like thieves and bandits, all of this 89 billion that will be wasted, I'm guaranteeing you, half of it is going to go into their pockets. Meanwhile, Guyanese people will be left without. But I will venture to say that it is the Guyanese people that have to begin to become uncomfortable with these types of situations and agitate. We have 31 members of parliament. We are in the National Assembly bringing the facts to the people. As Guyanese, the labor unions and all of these organizations that have a role to represent public servants have to begin to speak up. The only thing necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And the good people of Guyana have to start standing up and speaking up against these against these people who are so uncaring and so heartless. My God, can you imagine public servants that have to get up every morning? How is it that they go into their offices and face these people that work with them every day, knowing you don't know what those people go through? Some people got to borrow money to go to work to keep their job, and you have accessed $129 billion out of our oil money, and you can't make their life better. Something has to be wrong with you as a human being. Something has to be wrong with your heart. Something got wrong.
Man, so these guys ain't easy. And I'm just alerting our listeners. We were on a bit before this broadcast. We were having some struggle with it, and we ended it at about 20 minutes in. So we've already together done more than an hour of the program, and we have to head back into the National Assembly. So we're gonna do 45 minutes of this broadcast, and we're gonna make up for it as the week unfolds. But Amanzi, you've articulated it so well. You know, if there was ever a budget where people are out of touch, is this budget. Um, you mentioned about the unions playing a part, and I have to agree with you. They have to be more consistent. They have to be more consistent and more on the forefront. I don't know what has happened with the unions locally. I mean, some of them are trying, some of them really making trade unionism look bad, right? They're really making trade unionism look bad. I mean, I did a course as an undergraduate doing law. Sita Ramlal was my lecturer. Trade unionism, something with trade unions. I think that was the course. I know, man. So when you did law back in your time, some of these course names might have been different, but trade union law, and you got the sense that, my oh God, trade unions are things to be reckoned with in collective bargaining and all of that, and the way they fight for workers' rights. And there's a litany of case law and jurisprudence with that's concerned. But the unions need to do more. But that being said, I want to balance it up on the other side by saying they did make some overtures to the government where this budget is concerned, because I read it. And again, it was Raman McRae talking about budget 2022 and their analysis of it, and the positives and the shortcomings. Talked about the unions making their their proposals known to the government, their requests known, and all that. But this is where, again, they came back to the private sector, because what Rama McRae said, that dutiful study of the budget, what it indicated, it said as though is the private sector is the only body, the private sector commission that is the only body that seemed to have been heard, because their proposal seemed to mirror exactly what was provided for the private sector in this budget. So it seems as though they are in tandem with the private sector as against with the unions. Amanza, MP Ganesh Maipal just walked into our area here. Good to see you, MP Maipal. Amanza.
Sharon, I don't know if the unions were consulted because we heard from MP Maipal, the walking on the name, that they have slashed, for example, the allocation for Region 4, the most populous region. And I keep hearing from the government side of the house, why y'all didn't do it? Man, we were able to increase the public service wage, double it without oil money. So you have a government that has accessed 120 something billion dollars. And that is the difference. We were able to grow the non-oil sectors since the PPP has taken office. And I want people to understand simply when we talk about Dutch disease, what we're talking about. When a country finds oil like Guyana has found, there is a tendency for the entire economy to become reliant on oil. And the danger of that is that the oil prices could crash tomorrow. And so traditionally, governments are warned to guard against focusing and relying too heavily on the oil sector and neglecting the non-oil sectors like the agriculture and the extractive industries in terms of the bauxite, gold, and the fishing and so on and so forth. What we have seen since this government has taken office is that all of these non-oil sectors have contracted. The conclusion is that we are in the middle of the Dutch disease and we don't even understand that it has begun to bite us. And so let me tell you, you have Google. Every Guyanese has a smartphone, almost. Go to one of the internet hubs that the AP and UFC coalition had installed. You got a lot of government free Wi-Fi because we went around this country and developed ICT. And you Google these things. Get yourself informed. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Go and you will see what the PPP is putting us through and under. And we must not be distracted by these trinkets that they're dangling at us. Oh, we're going to develop a safe space here so you and the children can go and run about and forget that you're hungry. Is that what they intend for people to do? So we as Guyanese have to stay vigilant Like I say, for 2022, we have to hold a focus, and we have to focus on holding the PPP accountable for providing all Guyanese, and in case you're Afro, Indo, Indigenous Guyanese, whatever Guyanese ethnicity you may be of, the government owes us a duty of care to ensure that our socio-economic needs, our health needs, all of the needs of Guyanese are met. We are a land of 750,000 people. It could be a land that will be so beautiful, where resources are distributed equitably, where if I fail, it is because I did not make enough of an effort, not because the system is stacked against me, is rigged against me, and it is only catering to the elite and the wealthy.
Couldn't put it any way better. I couldn't put it any way better. And I said to you guys that MP Ganesh Maipal just walked into the area where we're broadcasting from in the Arthur Chung Convention Center, where again we are debating the budget 2022. And as Ganesh walked in, our shadow minister for local government and regional development, I thought about how if it's one thing these guys are good at is distracting you, right? These Jacobats and trench crappos. Now they come, as Manzi said, Charles Ramsey can talk about a whole host of things, everything else but except sports, youth, and culture, right? And they can tell we how we try to rig and all of that. And these guys, since last year, have denied us our democratic right and the exercise of that through the holding of local government elections. That one minister could wake up one morning and decide, you know what, we ain't having this because of some fancy reason that he make up in his mind. They cause a whole set of problem at GCOM, and now come to tell me, oh, it's because of these problems at GCOM. They can't hold local government election. This is how they say, right? They create a problem, then come as the saviors. Create a problem at GCOM, and then come to say, oh, this is why we can't hold local government election. Our constitutional rights being denied, being denied. But folks, we're on the trail. Just like how our constitutional rights were being denied with these constitutional agencies that were denied funding, we had to carry them to court. Just like how Onage, lying Onage Waldron, and the other two parliamentary secretaries were sitting illegally in the house, we had to challenge them in the court. Just as now, just in that manner, we're going to continue to be on the tails and pursuing them, folks, pursuing them because they ain't gonna hoodwink we. They ain't gonna hoodwink we. We want a proper standard of living. We want local government election. We don't only want a safe space on Lamahar Street. We want the country to be a safe space. It's here we live in. And we have a frightened to come out we yard on Saturdays because it's high risk Saturday and all them fancy things. We want the whole country be a safe space. We deserve that as Guyanese. You pay your taxes and so forth. We got biggest budget ever. They must go out and walk. They're lazy. They don't have the stamina for it. You understand me? All I want to do is drive around in fancy big vehicles every day. Them big gas guzzlers and so on. While you got to go to the pump and gas price raise, they ain't paying a cent for gas. Right? Is you are paying the gas bill plus your own. Plus your own. Folks, we did tell you we'd have a truncated program in this broadcast because we started earlier and lost some time there because we had some missteps with that program. We already at 1:26, preparing to get back into the National Assembly for the other aspects of the debate this afternoon and the other speakers. So with that, folks, we take our leave. We take our leave till this evening when we're back in the ring with you folks. But I want to thank Amanza that even though we had a lot of false starts at the beginning of the program, she stuck with us and we were able to have the kind of program we were able to have with all of you guys out there falling over Amanza's presentation and all of that. Y'all easy, I tell you, it has occurred to me. It's not me y'all here for. It has occurred to me. It has occurred to me. That being said, Amanza, thanks once more for being part of our broadcast.
Thank you for having me, Sheridan. We will return to the National Assembly to continue with the people's business.
That being said, folks, that's our program for today. Thanks to Ganesh for stepping in as moral support and bringing up the tail end of the program. Moral support, guys. And we're going to continue. Stay tuned into the places you're getting the broadcast from, the debates from, guys. And as you go, share the live stream for us. Good to see you, Richard Fordyce. Smash that emoji button as well. Karen Gordon, Mala Pandey, good to see you. Andrew Cuthbert, all you folks there. Ososo, Mambobu. Oh, y'all get these fake names from man. Mososo Mambobu. That doesn't sound like a real name. I hope, well, folks, if that's the name your parents give you, respect and manners. If that's the if that's the name your parents give you, respect and manners. Peter Sills, we see you there. Carla Washington, we see you as well. Diane Graves, Andy, Joyce, Pierce, Kingston. Good to see all of you folks. Ensure you share the live stream before you go, and we want to see those emojis as well. We're going to be back in the ring at 8. Thanks for joining our podcast. Below the bell. Who vex vex? Who vex lose? Stay safe out there, folks. Stay safe out there. It's been our privilege having you guys. Stay safe until we see you again in the ring. Thanks for joining our podcast. Below the belt. Who vex lose? Stay safe, guys.